Hello and welcome everybody to another G.I. Joeberg webisode commentary with Steve and...
Robert is right here with them.
Yeah, we might feature some special guests on this one as well, but for the most part, you're going to be stuck with us two criminals.
Oopsie.
The video under commentary analysis today is none other than Blazing Sand. Blazing Sand, singular, not plural. Although, isn't sand a word that can be singular and plural?
Yeah, I think so. A grain of sand or
Many
sand.
No, I'm going to cut that. So Blazing Sand basically was me running down a hill. I wanted to have an action sequence set on the dunes of Atlantis in the Western Cape, near Cape Town, my hometown. What better vehicles to showcase in sand dunes than the Ore Striker, being pursued hopefully by some Cobra all-terrain vehicles, the Ferrets. The Dreadnoks are immensely popular out there, so I begrudgingly decided to include those guys in the action sequence. And of course, I wanted to debut things like the Tomahawk and the Conquest X30. So that was the seed that became this 5-parter. I don't think I had envisioned that it would be a 5-parter, but here we sit on top of what is essentially almost an hour's worth of entertainment.
Yeah, I hope everyone has enjoyed this experience, and it's been fun making it. It's been a real journey. Yeah, and I hope everyone enjoys seeing it with us today.
It certainly was historical for us because it was perhaps the best way to debut an idea that's been taking shape for a long time, and that was putting the flag to sea. And if for no other reason than an internet peculiarity, we got a record number of hits on that particular video. So without further ado, let's plunge on into it.
Dive in, please.
Woohoo!
Literally.
Titling. That's a new thing. Didn't have that in Atlantis Factor or Blood in the Water.
I think we're getting better.
Happy accident that the sand played so nicely. You know, you can actually see grains being kicked up. Really gives it a sense of motion. That was, not planned, but looks good.
It looks amazing. I think it really does add another dimension of kind of like movement to the shots.
And it was windy too, so I mean, if you can imagine being pelted with sand on your bare skin, yeah, it's that kind of sensation. A stingy kind of day.
Yeah, I think that later on in the series I did experience that quite a bit. It's a lot of fun. Not really. So these early sequences were filmed by Steven on his own. I don't know if you can tell.
Some challenges were met by occasionally putting the camera in my mouth. or setting it up static. Yeah, typically I'd want to be able to manipulate the toys with both my hands and have someone else manning the camera. I think those are the most ideal situations for, working on a certain scale. Look, if you can quite happily shoot individual characters alone, but when it comes to multiple vehicles, yeah, it's really good to have my buddy Rob around.
Hey, I knew there was a reason why he always had me around.
Hey, debut of Lady J and the Tomahawk. I mean, there's just so much material, or so many toys debuting in this series. It really just wrote itself.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, this all came from this little sequence. Oh, the sand. Okay. And also the debut of more voices. So up to this point, Steven has essentially been the voice of all the characters. And now we get to hear his sister, Tessa, as Lady J, and a couple of his friends as other voices, as well as me and Paul debuting in the series.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I erred when I said Lady J was debuting in this one. She did, in fact, find a debut in Atlantis Factor Part 5. We had a little bit of Lady J and Baroness action. So she's reprising her role. And the voice behind Lady J is none other than my sister, who's an accomplished actress in her own right.
came out of nowhere. Well, he won't be around long enough to do any more damage.
I think I might have lifted that line from Star Wars. Well, he won't be around long enough to tell anybody about us. Yeah, that's a Han Solo right there. I think all of the pilot characters have a kind of a Han Solo swagger to them.
Well, they have to. I mean, Han Solo is definitely, I think, the prototype of the best.
Then Slipstream kind of gets shown up by Ace towards the end of this, by just being slightly less polished or cool or street. You know, Ace and the old school guy, Keelhaul, are jawing about, you know, trying to protect the ship, and Slipstream pipes up and gets shot down just as quickly.
Yeah, that was. I'm looking forward to talking about that sequence. It's actually there's a lot of good comedy in this.
Got a little bit of flack about flipping a vintage Ore Striker.
What? Come on, have they not seen us put things in the water?
Well, yes. I mean, yeah. I would have been pretty upset if I'd snapped my aerials that day.
But it didn't happen, so success.
Yeah. Fragility of these toys is all good as long as you're ignorant to the dangers.
Yeah, just don't worry about stuff until afterwards, I think. That's the best way of filming these things.
So there was a little retcon that happened. The Conquest fires its missiles at the Firebat, but because I was alone that day, the Firebat doesn't really do any kind of maneuver to avoid the missiles. So it's like, what's throwing them off? So I added this line.
Must be electronic interference throwing off the guidance systems.
As a retcon, like, oh, there's electronic interference. But it is G.I. Joe canon that Terradromes put out some kind of electronic paranoia wave. So perhaps in addition to that, they can interfere with, you know, finely tuned electronics like missile guidance systems.
Yeah, well, I'd hope so. I mean, the Terradrome is protected by what like normally, or at least toy-wise, by one Firebat. I mean, it needs some sort of extra, you know, abilities and powers to kind of keep it
Diabolical.
alive.
Yeah, no, it's very Cobra tech to be able to, like, beam waves of disruption through the very air.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is also awkward. I didn't have any other material from my voice actress sister. So Lady J's kind of mute in this sequence.
Well, I suppose she doesn't have much to say all the time. Also, I think you mentioned to me that you filmed most of this with your GoPro.
Entirely on my GoPro. I think my mobile phone, which I normally use for the principal photography and kind of supplement with the GoPro, that phone had died. There was absolutely no way I could do a day's worth of shooting with it.
And something else you mentioned in a recent podcast that we did just before recording this is that if you actually look at the footage here, you can notice the focal range of the GoPro, and it's really obvious now once you've listened to the podcast.
Oh, yeah. You caught me.
Look, distance that things actually stay in focus.
GoPros are not good at extreme close-ups, which, of course, when you're shooting action figures of this size and shooting them with a kind of a scaled-up perspective to make them look like real people, yeah, you are way too close for the focal range of a GoPro, which effectively is an infinity lens. I mean, everything beyond maybe a foot in front of the lens is perfectly sharp. But you get in really tight and you're going to start seeing things get fuzzy. After some time has passed. I wasn't going to do a cutaway to like Flint eyeballing the entrance to the Cobra base, so I think it's assumed.
Yeah, well, a fade suggests passage of time. And I don't think we have often used fades.
True. It's got to mean something, right? Yeah, there's your focal length. I would have loved Lady J to be in focus, or Lifeline.
Lifeline, yeah.
Unfortunately, it's really grabbed the fuselage of the Tomahawk.
Easy, Captain Aikido. I could have gotten myself out of that jam. Right.
No one's caught that one just yet. Lifeline actually was an Aikido master, at least in the comic books, which I believe is a martial arts form that has no offensive moves, only defensive ones.
Yes, well, I suppose redirecting the energy of your opponent. I guess Paul would know a lot more about this.
Ah, yes.
And they're mentioning Paul. This track is beautiful. I love this music that he's done for this sequence.
It was a no-brainer to end part 1 with his new track, which is kind of very wide open, spacey, but also has that kind of ethnic drum beat going through it. And it was also something that I bookended by placing it in the credit sequence at the end of Blazing Part 5. It was a beautiful day to shoot.
Yeah, I'm just looking. It's amazing. And also, when you did those walkaway shots, did you know how far you had to walk, or did you just keep walking more than you needed to?
I actually had a application on my phone which gave me a direct link to the GoPro. So while I'm walking with the Tomahawk in one hand, I've got my mobile phone open on the GoPro app in the other hand, so I could see when my head disappears beneath the dune.
That shot there, I love the impressions of the mirage in the sand.
Yeah, very deep impressions, because those wheels, they froze up immediately. Like they do not turn. Once you got a little bit of sand and grit in there, they are totally frozen.
And I gotta say, also throughout the series, like, okay, you can't match sunlight to interior light exactly, but the light that has been used, that we've used, it's fairly spot on. I mean, it feels like it is where it was.
That's
which I quite
just
liked.
the magic of cinema, I guess.
Yeah, there's another sequence later on. Hopefully I'll remember to mention it, but like...
Butt shot.
Oh!
Thanks, Lady J. You can fly.
What's Flint looking at, guys?
It's looking dead ahead because he's a professional, okay?
Oh, is he? Is he?
Oh, yeah. Nice to get a bit of motion with the Silver Mirage. I've often mused that it is perhaps the fastest land vehicle in G.I. Joe's arsenal. I mean, it is a super bike, right?
Yeah.
But you just seldom get a chance to show it off as such. This was all filmed in my apartment, on my shelves, which I had to clear all the Transformers off of. But I tried various other locations. I tried real caves, and they were filled with homeless people.
Well, yeah, we don't want another run-in, do we?
Indeed. And when they weren't filled with homeless people, they just were too rocky. You couldn't get that kind of smooth movement of these vehicles moving along a very spacey kind of underground tunnel system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I really like this shot. I don't know why. This little sequence.
It's because he's kind of psychotic. I think of all the Dreadnoks, Buzzer is the most problematic. Because he really went off the rails. He wasn't a delinquent to begin with. He, as an adult, after, being I don't know, he was doing his master's or his PhD, he just lost himself. I think it definitely speaks to his mental breakdown. So it stands to reason that, like, now he's kind of almost the Joker of the Dreadnoks. He's a very unstable individual.
And there was the first of our Dreadnoks playing chicken in Blazing Sand.
Why, does it happen again?
Yeah, it does. It happens with the Thunder Machine and the...
What can I say? They just love a head-on pass. I mean, when your Thunder Machine is packing all that firepower up front, it makes no sense to show them your rear. So this is the least watched part of Blazing Sand, but I think it's got its merit. I mean, cornering Mindbender, his debut, in fact, is always going to be a thrill for me. And of course, blowing up the Silver Mirage with extreme prejudice, as we've just seen.
It's gorgeous. I mean, it's just nice to
it
be
was
able to
built
take something
to
apart.
be destroyed. Yeah, all those little parts.
Well, this is a very, I mean, episode 2, it's a big link. I mean, it's a setup of everything else that comes after it.
Some very adult scripting. I hope no parents had to explain too much to their kids about the sort of darker elements that might be part and parcel of being a Dreadnok. If they've managed to capture an attractive young female enemy operative.
Well, don't over-explain it.
Agreed.
I think you take away from it what you will. I mean, adult or kid. I mean, you understand danger. whether it's explicitly explained or not.
Well,
Let's put this coat on.
Ripper does say, when we're done with you, you'll be begging for a bullet.
Oh.
So, I mean, it's
well,
pretty
I
dark
would
stuff.
take.
These are not good dudes, man. The Dreadnoks they're not even uniformed Cobras. These guys are unruly and they're just evil.
No, absolutely.
They don't have ethics or a code of honor.
Real slow.
Oh, they're not good guys. Love that shot.
I'm not joking.
I know.
On your knees.
So
Reflection.
this entire sequence, this was filmed by Paul.
We filmed it together. I was in Johannesburg for I think one evening, and I was like, let's get some shots with the Terradrome in it.
That's it.
I think the understanding is that they've built the Terradrome underground,
Yeah.
and that is something that does have canonical. I don't know. It has been.
It has been established. Yeah.
Yeah, canonical establishment in the G.I. Joe comic books. Harmer sometimes placed Terradromes underneath ice flows or desert.
And I gotta say, the camera angles and everything in this sequence, because I mean, a lot of this early stuff I really only saw at release, like with everyone else on the premiere on YouTube. It's really gorgeous. Like, especially this Terradrome sequence, it's very interesting, these angles that you guys got. I really enjoy it, this kind of backwards and forwards motion, the kind of flips the camera does every now and then. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
It just has, there's like kind of like almost like a sinister motion to it, I think.
With some lovely underscoring by, well, this is a Sunbow cue, but Paul decided to compose a signature track for Mindbender, sort of some electronic beats, which we show off only too gladly. And that's a macro lens for an iPhone.
Rest will come.
That kind of, you can get really close in there, kind of fisheyes everything on the borders.
Yeah, it does. It's fantastic.
Here we have finally a use of Lady J's concealed pistol. Got the figure to do a little back bend, so she could fire it through its holster, and I don't know, it's not really explained, but she must have inflicted some kind of superficial injury on Mindbender, and that's all the opening she needed to climb in. I love the idea of these guys being assigned with, being the security detail.
Not doing anything.
Yeah, like, he can take it. Look at him. He's built like a brick shithouse. So,
Muscle Mary,
Exactly.
as we say later on.
Nice try, sweetie. Night night.
It gave me great glee to try my hand at a Welsh accent, because that is actually Monkey Wrench's birthplace. I think Cardiff. I have once played a Welshman on stage, so
You've had practice.
I'd like to think I didn't butcher it.
Well, if any Welsh G.I. Joe fans out there can confirm.
Or
Please let
deny.
us
Tell me I stink. I'll take some lessons. Very subtly, the last bit of scripting referenced Snake Eyes.
Yes.
The first name drop we've had of that character. I like to think of him more as the kind of guy you call in if you need something handled discreetly by a single operative.
Yeah.
I don't really fancy his place as a team player, which is one of the reasons why he has not yet made any kind of debut.
Negative. Looks like it's
Well, it
perfect.
makes sense. I mean,
These guys took up residence.
yes, in the comic books, and they kind of get around the fact that he is mute. But it makes more sense that you kind of give him a directive, and you let him loose, and he does the mission that he's been told to do, obviously with his own discretion. But he gets it done. You tell him what to do, and he gets it finished. Yeah.
Yeah, man. When all else fails, call in Snake Eyes.
This is really cool. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is your Paul kind of like pulling your fingers apart. And
How'd you guess? Yeah, absolutely.
It's gorgeous. I really like this little bit here, and the kind of like in and out of focus shots. It's really great. This the filming. It really has I don't know, an ethereal feeling to it. This whole sequence in the Terrordrome is great. Not to like go on too much about how cool it is, but like it when I saw it for the first time, I was just like, wow.
Are you doing?
A little bit of suggestion.
I think at the core of the philosophy of these webisodes is trying to push the boundary on what action figure
What the heck?
puppeteering can be.
Hmm.
You know, surely you can effectively do all the kinds of angles and storytelling techniques that you would do live action.
Yeah, I
You know,
think so.
And if you're placing boundaries in front of yourself, perhaps you need to reevaluate, because you really can get in there really tight. You can frame an action figure's face as
yeah, you
would
can have
an
as
actor
a
in
real
close-up.
actor. And here we have the debut of the flag, and also my the beginning of my involvement with the Blazing Sand.
Yeah, there was absolutely no way anyone could solo this kind of sequence. Rob is actually manipulating the tomahawk
And
at
the
this
camera
moment.
at this point in time.
Yep, I took a step back. Did nothing.
Well, you're making sure the flag don't float away into the ocean.
Cheers. Hey, who's the guy back there?
Hey! It's me.
Nice. Rob debuts in a big way. He's a giant floating head above the flag. So this is all shot inside my room, which explains why the portals are so dark. I tried lighting it with a very strong lamp, but
Sophisticated weapons. Keep yourself.
nothing can be as strong
We've
as
just seen the
sunlight,
tip of
friend.
the iceberg.
What up, LJ?
Hey, iceberg.
That's probably one of my favorite jokes.
It was a little on the nose, wouldn't you say?
No, it is, but it's just so in the moment. It's like, bloop.
The sucker punch comedy.
It's great.
It's probably nothing. Heads
And I mean, I think as you were saying just now about the kind of suggestion of camera angles and stuff, and doing what you can with real actors, the movement of the camera had to kind of like focus more on the gun. Like, why is she looking at the gun?
Sure.
It's great.
Why didn't I touch up the gold paint on the gun? Oh, what tune do you think this is?
This is YMCA, isn't it?
Damn, you are good.
Well, because there's a line that comes up soon where the guy, where one of the
Ripper.
Ripper's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get your YMCA, your something."
I'm gonna wipe that village people grin off your
Yes,
face.
that makes sense, because
Practical effects.
hey, well, this series involves a lot of practical effects. We already had a few in the Thunder Machine Dome.
Terrordrome.
Terrordrome, we already had it in there, and we'll have a few more later on as well. I mean, we really had fun transforming Zartan, from himself into another character, or another character into him. And yeah, why bother with After Effects and whatever else? Just do it in camera.
Yep, quicker that way. Poor Ripper was always destined to be the fall guy. It's like the other two stayed behind while Zartan and Zorana kind of substituted in. And for those of you wondering if maybe Ripper is perhaps Xandar, no. I can't bring myself to get a Xandar figure yet. I do not like the figure, the character, anything about it. Oops. Sorry all the Xandar fans out there.
But it's a lovely, it's also a great comedy. I mean, I love the comedy in this series. Wait!
Tough now, teacup. I'll knock your stupid village people grin sideways
Oh,
for you.
there's your line.
Wake up.
Hehe.
What blimmin'
And here starts the journey of Polly in this series.
Get help, Polly. Whoops.
Dropped. Oh, I still can't believe we took a flag out in the ocean. It blows me away.
Yeah, our third or fourth location choice. I
Mm.
mean, it is a pity that it is in a kind of a rocky bay, but honestly, dear listener, we tried so hard to get a better location, and we were beset with a number of difficulties. For instance, the sun just being in the wrong place, or or we were going to use a lagoon, but at that time of the year the lagoon had dried up.
Yeah, we didn't
So,
know that.
Any attempts at mimicking open waters seems to have fallen to nothing. We even tried a tidal pool, but it happened to be extremely busy that day.
You okay?
Too many people, yeah. But I mean, I think it still makes sense though. I mean, they would kind of port maybe not necessarily so close to the coast, but I mean, it's more sheltered where they were.
Yeah, maybe the flag, given its diminutive size, is able to sail in much tighter coastal environments
Yeah.
and use almost natural cover to mask it. You know, you put it on the open sea, and anyone can see it on their radar. But you hide it behind rocks, you've all of a sudden got some subterfuge. Ooh.
Whoop, here comes the subplot.
Yeah, something that I'm personally quite proud of. I'm sure
Lifeline now.
Sunbow, if given a few more seasons and maybe more iterations of these two figures, would have explored a bit more. But like, we got this tease that Mainframe and Zorana were an item. I love that. Except, I mean, for the purposes of Blazing Sand, we allude to the fact that they knew each other quite a while before this, the events of Blazing Sand. Like, Mainframe was perhaps working in Silicon Valley, still, you know, top secret soldier kind of character, but it would put him in a direct dealings with someone like Zorana, who's essentially on an intelligence gathering exercise. So in a kind of a Mr. and Mrs. Smith, without realizing each other's true missions, they have a legitimate romance.
And here's the establishment of the recurring joke.
The rule of threes, unfortunately the rule of threes does not work when it's split over two different episodes. But at least on the script, it appears like Keelhaul bangs his shins once, he curses. He bangs his shins again, he curses even louder. He bangs his shins a third time, and then he finally decides to do something about it.
More like you wouldn't want an expensive jet pulled for a bird strike.
These close-ups are done with a Huawei, and boy oh boy oh boy, out of all the mobile phones I've used to shoot these things, it is the best. Just the clarity, the vibrance of the colors. Can't be beat, man. Sorry iPhone, sorry Samsung.
Whoopsie doopsie.
Is it a continuity flub? Iceberg comes in second?
No, well, the way that I understand is that he's opening the door so that others can move in before him.
Yeah.
That's the way I understand it, and we
Thank
kind
you.
of cut to the next moment, you know. It makes perfect sense.
Oh, thanks.
Like ice. No need to do anything hasty. Do it now!
Okay, man.
The Joes give up their weapons because they know they've got an ace in the hole. I'd like to think it's not standard practice for them to give a loaded weapon over to an enemy agent.
No, definitely not. I mean, maybe
They were
maybe
like-
police would do that.
Junk's gonna make the takedown.
Yeah,
If we'd gotten here any later,
but soldiers wouldn't do that.
cardiac arrest. That was a powerful paralytic toxin. Small mercies. 3 went into that cell, only 1 was left behind. That means there are 2 highly
So,
dangerous individuals
I
at large
lifted
on my ship.
The sound of the flag warning klaxon from a retroblasting video. I was in
Thanks,
Singapore.
Retroplastic.
I was in Singapore. I had no access to my USS Flag microphone, so I pulled it off a retroblasting flag restoration. So thank you, Michael. Consider it payback for the raising of the flag upgrade that you credit us for.
Currently large on my ship. It won't be
Man, I wish I'd had the idea to add motion
We'll find 'em.
to the camera to simulate the sort of
Maybe there is some
on the
wisdom
ocean
to get that
movement
stuff outta here.
in a lot more of the other shots.
Thing sounds a lot
It's
more
kind of a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah, but the other shots were inside. This is outside, and also this is an example of where I thought the light was
coming in after.
fairly well matched. This still feels outside to me, even though I'm pretty sure you filmed this inside your bedroom, but with a bright light.
Guilty as charged, my friend. You can't get great contrast. I mean, if we shot this stuff when we were on location as opposed to in the studio environment of my room, we wouldn't have had the spill of light from the inside of the cabin.
Yeah.
It's cool to have the interior flag light. Because, yeah, as you see, I mean, we would just get, like, blue sky if we'd shot it there. So, there has been some concern about the status of Mutton Junkyard.
Yeah, they're dead.
Oh.
No, guys, no. I mean, no. Don't worry. Well, maybe they aren't dead. I mean, you have to wait for the next series, I think, to see their fate.
Though I can, without giving anything away, say that, Law and Order will soon be making their debut. So
Ooh.
maybe they are replacing the outgoing.
Oh, no! Well, that doesn't mean they're dead. Maybe they're retired.
I mean, there's no reason why they can't work in tandem. You got two K9 operatives.
Yeah, well, they have different, I suppose, missions.
Do they? Do they really? I'd like to think that, in order for Law and Order to really shine, Mutton Junkyard have to step aside. So, out of respect to the new characters, you can't have the overlap.
Chopper in with the prisoners. He's unconscious. Give me
Ah,
a hand, will ya?
Sure.
we have the lovely Claire Taylor
Taking him to sick
pulling
bay.
double duty.
That way,
She
sweetheart.
does a bit of cover girl, but then
Fine
slips into
subs,
her
G.I. Joe
Zorana
when we get the
twang.
heck out of here.
Oh, it's
What?
gorgeous.
Who are you?
The accent is so
Shush it,
good. I
Stella.
really enjoy
Be a
her
good lad, you
performance.
might survive
She
this
is
encounter.
Phenomenal.
You're out
And
of
I
your
get
mind
to
if you
experience
think
this
you can
woman
get a
up
G.I.
close
Joe carrier on a
every night, in
stolen
fact.
I'll take my chances.
Hey.
Everyone
She
here's
plays
got
my
enough to worry
wife
about
on
anyway.
stage
Thanks
in
for the help,
Matilda.
chum.
Ah, fantastic.
Hmm.
Sorry, love. Freeze! Oh, if it's not one thing, it's the...
Shut up.
And now, I think by this point, hopefully, I mean, the penny's starting to drop. I mean, he's starting to understand, like, what has happened to Lady J. I mean, I think if you have been watching this, it might be a bit confusing, or there might be, like, small pieces where you're like, okay, wait, when did that happen? Why did this happen? But now I think everything kind of comes into focus, or starts to make sense. That Lady J has been kind of messed with. And that's why maybe if you noticed a couple of issues earlier in the other episodes, with continuity maybe, now it makes sense.
I think it's important that Dr. Mindbender earn his namesake. He needs to bend minds. So in his debut, that is precisely what he does. He has created a Trojan horse. Hey, it's Rob's voice debut.
My debut.
Mantle. Trouble is, there's no telling how many they set up.
Where did you find
Nice.
the first?
Suitably bookish, but serious. I mean, Tripwire is all business when it comes to explosives.
Yeah.
He might be clumsy in every other avenue, but
Might have defeated the
Yeah, give him a bomb and he's all,
super cool, super
All
zen.
activity until we cover every sabotage.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I mean, I'm looking forward to doing more voices in the
Your job,
future.
soldier, and don't make any mistakes. Clearing this boat is now
Super
our
close
duty,
up, man.
sir.
You can see exactly how grubby my keel hole is.
I want to report land
Maybe I should have
now.
given him a little bit of
With our aircraft
a
grounded
toweling
in
down or a sponge bath.
Nah. SpongeBob.
Good.
Oh, number 2.
Here anyway.
So Rob, there was a little bit of a scripting faux pas that you or plotting faux pas that you pointed out to me on this point. Do you want to explain it?
Yes, so we have the mission that Mindbender set up is to kill Hawk.
Oh, there's Mainframe, by the way.
And
in
there's
case you missed it.
Mainframe. No, he was in there. I did. I'm sure people did notice.
He was there in 2 halves. You can't really put a passenger in the back of the Shark. It is a
Nah.
1-seater, so I took his legs off.
Yeah. So the mission appears to be the assassination of Hawk. That seems to be the mission. But then at the same time, Zartan is impersonating Hawk. That's something that I realized after we actually filmed this. And I was just like confused for myself, and I think Steven struggled for a bit with.
Well, I tried countering you by saying maybe Zartan isn't aware of Mindbender's plan to have Lady J as the sort of Trojan horse, assassin.
Yeah, but then I
But
said
then
Zorana
Zorana
knows.
knows,
She knows the mission.
So it is a double bluff, which soon became a triple bluff. Because actually
That's the attack.
Hawk has been assassinated at this point,
Yes.
and Zartan has slipped into Hawk's persona and convinced everyone on the flag that there is a doppelganger who took the bullets.
Yeah, so I mean, by revealing, which is interesting because he reveals a truth, which makes the lie even more believable. I think that's often what people say, is that the best lies are the ones that incorporate a degree of honesty in them.
Close up on Cobra Commander, looking very Pac-Man ghostly. That mask, love it, love it, love it. Especially his googly eyes that kind of protrude out from under the mask. Paul was a fan of that angle, sort of inverting Hawk, sort of showing him upside down, gives you the impression that not all is well.
Ah,
Yeah. Well, it's something that autistic, graphically minded Paul would say, I suppose. Yeah, had to get a lot of mileage out of those slow establishing shots. It's like, I know you might have come here for one thing, and that's the flag on water, but maybe, just maybe, you can be swept up in the storyline as well.
so this is a sequence I really enjoy. Because, like, so he makes the joke, and then suddenly Ace is, like, behind Keelhaul. And they're both like, what did you say? It's brilliant, because, like, Ace is right over here, and then it switches. It's probably for me, the funniest moment in this whole thing.
I was unable to do
And here
any
it
kind
is.
of reshoots, Rob. Come on,
Here it
have a
comes.
heart.
Watch, guys. It's hilarious, because it's... But it...
Like, he took a step over to Keelhaul just so he could stare down.
Yes! To
For
me, that's comedic
effect.
effect. It's brilliant. I
Our
love it.
saboteur took the bullet for me. Turns out he's been trading on my good looks. Literally.
Huh.
Some kind of
Or
impersonation
has
act.
he?
Well, at this point, I'd like to think everyone was convinced, including the audience and me. I'll have you know that the flipping of it in Part 5 wasn't planned at all. In fact, I'm going to confess that there was no Part 5 scripted until... well, Part 4 was supposed to end with Hawk being shot dead. And Part 5 would have concluded with the aerial battle and the flag surviving. There was not going to be a Part 5. So flipping it back to Zartan being alive and well and impersonating Hawk at the end was kind of the necessary, I suppose, concluding chapter. It
Yeah.
needed this, like, final confrontation, and that was what it was going to be. And I suppose with the confused identity trope, you can flip it back on itself. And it's like, oh, you got me? Oh, you got me
can.
again?
Which is fantastic, which is, I mean, often, if anyone's ever watched the TV series 24, the actors themselves, because of the way that the series is written, yes, the series, each season is a 24-hour day, the writers haven't actually necessarily written all the way to the end of that day. So the actors give a true performance in the moment, so that if there is a twist and a turn, they themselves didn't even know about it. So the performance that they're giving is true to that time and that moment, and is so much more convincing.
So, ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't see it coming that Zartan was, in fact, the surviving Hawk at this point, and that right now, the Hawk you're looking at is Zartan, well, neither did we. Nobody knew it. Finally, the moment we've all been waiting for, having a takeoff sequence on the flag on the water. It had to happen. I mean, if we got nothing else that day, we had to get this.
It had to happen, yeah. 'Cause, I
Sadly,
mean,
my lens had missed it up, but this was
it
still
creates an
usable.
interesting effect, I think, actually. It feels very, like, maybe not ethereal, but it looks interesting. It looks more,
Yep.
I don't know.
Well, you mix lenses with cold water and warm air temperature, and it's gonna happen, man.
Well, it gives it a cool effect, I think.
Yeah, takeoff sequence into the sun. You can't go wrong. Like, we aren't accomplished cinematographers at all, but like, you can't screw this up. It's gonna look stunning one way or another. You're gonna get that lens flare. You're gonna get golden hues, and just put amazing toys in front of the camera. You can't, as I say, you can't go wrong. And there's me. Hey,
Hey,
put me in front of the
Steven.
camera. I can't go wrong.
You can't get nothing wrong.
Hey, there's a phone on the table.
Oops.
I mean, on the flag deck.
Hey.
Oh yeah, money shot right down the back of the Conquest.
Yeah, somehow, thank you, Cape Town, for being so versatile and for the sun going down and looking beautiful.
The payload.
This is our first abortive day attempt at putting the flag to sea.
Yes.
The wind was pumping. We could not actually conceivably do it. So we packed in the boat and decided to take the jets up onto a mountainside to get some sunset sequences with the Night Raven.
Yes, I mean, the wind was absolutely insane. I think we just managed to pull out the base of the flag from the back of the car.
It just flew away
And
from us.
it's trying to fly out, yeah, literally trying to fly away. And there was no ways we were going to be able to do anything with it. Someone actually was walking past and had to help us get the stuff back into the car.
Wrangle it. So yeah, fortunately we were up against a mountain with this sequence, so we weren't directly exposed to the wind, but still, like, holding the jet steady with one hand
Oh,
while
that
the wind
was
was kind of flipping them
scary.
around.
Weapon is running.
A little nerve-wracking. If that wind sort of wrenches it out of your hands, it's dashed on the rocks like 100 meters below you.
And we didn't even have to, like, you know, do like camera shake. I mean, the toys shook enough on their own.
Indeed. So the one Strata Viper was Eastern European and the other was Australian. I like the idea that Cobra has more international flavor. Kind of sourced their experts from, I suppose, the former military forces of the world.
Yeah, the kind of disgruntled soldiers. The guys who would have made, soldiers of fortune.
Basically, yeah.
Hey, here I am
What
again,
the
guys.
Dutch dog gunners
The
felt like
Motherboard.
when Luke was doing his trench run. Jiminy, here it comes. Come on, come on.
Grand Slam references
You never hear the one.
Star Wars.
Star Wars Trench Run because, I mean, if you read his file card, he is a fan of science fiction literature. Presumably that would mean that he absolutely loved Star Wars.
I
in
think so.
cinemas.
I mean, if you enjoy the books, you would definitely go and watch sci-fi
Get a
films.
combat air patrol up there and relieve them as soon as
I
possible.
believe so.
Nice. Oh, between takes, the sun went down. Triumphant, he has won his war against the foul vandal.
Like the USS Flag lives to fight another day.
But otherwise defeated.
Like, there's such an established history of G.I. Joe in the cartoons and the comic books, but like, we're establishing our kind of like our own version of G.I. Joe, which is still, I think, very true to at least our interpretation of G.I. Joe. It's cool to kind of have like a fresh look at things.
This is Paul, and this is what happens when Steve says, shoot some footage of the Terrordrome for Blazing Sand. I go all Resident Evil / Aliens / video games, and I just go nuts. So here we go. So the first thing was, let's make that Terrordrome bigger than the toy is. So I did that with cobbling together some diorama pieces from model kits and whatnot, and try to create these cool corridors so that it feels like you're actually inside this bigger space. I also used a lot of sort of video gamey style camera angles or horror style camera angles and horror style camera movements and shots. Many of them are an homage to various horror sources, both films and games. This was fun. I had to do this like 3 times over. I actually knocked the background over the one time. But I just wanted that good tension feeling. And this was completely an accident. I caught the shadow in my eye and thought, hey, if the camera gets it, cool, let's keep it. And, well, there you have it, folks. Televiper, yep, that's me bumping the camera there. But it works so well. And I'm literally hugging this scene as I'm shooting some of the stuff here. That's why things are getting bumped and whatever. But it adds to, I feel it adds to the texture of the shot. More bat shadow, and yeah, check it out, there comes the bat. Best way to kill something, I feel, is to kill it off screen with lots of grinning faces and machine gun movements and strobe lights, especially for the horror feel. But I'm going to hand you over to Steve now. Steve, take it away.
117 degrees.
That's a beeline for the coast. There's a little inlet we flew over this afternoon, perfect for a landing party. Thanks, Beach. Cross country, you listening?
Plenty of
Big
exposition
10-4,
happening here.
LT.
Presumably,
Up the coast on that
night had
mission,
fallen,
eh?
the G.I. Joes survived the night, and now it's time to bring in the big guns. They've managed to deploy the Havoc to join the fight.
Gorgeous vehicle, guys. I'm just gonna say, and Roadblock. Every single line from him is a rhyme. It's beautiful.
Scripting courtesy of Mr. Paul Loebscher for the most part. I added one or two myself, but
So these little sequences with the eels is actually one of the last things that we filmed, and it's completely not obvious, I think, that we really struggled with the tide coming in. I mean, in between shots, like the water would just keep pulling up, going up, and wow. It looks really great. I really like how this part turned out.
But as you touching on the tides, yeah, it was coming up pretty quickly, a lot quicker than I had anticipated. Because obviously we're in this kind of narrow pipe of rocks, and so a slight increase in tides will have a marked increase in terms of the water level. So yeah, between takes everything was getting washed away. We tried aborting it, but then I realized nothing beats this little inlet.
Yes,
It just had the perfectly sheltered approach and sort of egress for the eels. It was all about the exit strategy, man. I love this underwater sequence. So yeah, we had to use that location.
Yeah, we could have.
Tides be damned. Kozlov is identified by a sticker which the eel actually came with. I mean, whoever I bought it from appended that sticker to that eel's head, kind of marking him as like the special eel. So I kind of took that on and retained it. I like the idea of rank and file cobras not only being named characters, but also being extremely proficient. Like those two eels could comfortably take on 4 dreadnoughts, I'd like to think.
No, definitely. I mean, they've gone through not only their own training, you know, whatever army that they were in, but the added training that Cobra puts you through as well. I think Cobras are more dangerous than people give them credit for. I mean, even in cartoons and whatever, you know, and different versions, Cobras are formidable opponents.
Particularly eels, if you take them to be the SEAL team of Cobra. You know, they're cross-trained in everything and they're hard. So yeah, the individual seal is effectively a Snake Eyes, I'd like to think.
Yeah. And I mean, the eels prove themselves, I mean, throughout this entire, you know, latter half of Blazing Sand. Very much so.
Yeah, I get to show up a little bit more Monkey Wrench in his Welsh accent. Woo! I like this shot. There's some sort of sand spatter from my feet, which were just off camera left, in fact. Oh, but just gives a sense of motion. I mean, yeah, it was a fantastic bit of luck that the tide was as low as it was.
Yeah.
I've since come back to this location on 2 occasions, and it's been completely washed away. So, Rob, we got lucky that day.
Oh,
it was flat. It was hard, you know, very firm sand. It was still a bit damp because it had rained the night before.
Yeah, it was really perfect. So I mean, okay, so once the weather was bad to us, but you know, and another time it was really good to us, and this is perfect.
So the heavily articulated vehicle ordnance carrier finally shows off why it's articulated and why that is worth mentioning. Because you can slam both sets of tracks in the same direction and effectively do like a strafe maneuver.
Yeah.
So nice, I decided to use it twice.
No more playing around with these guys. Missile locked on? Locked. Fire!
And we get to see everything that the Havoc can do. It's great.
I'm out! Damn it!
No, he's not out. Those bullet belts were full of bullets. I also like the idea that the Havoc isn't slow, particularly on that terrain. It can move, but obviously it's not jet powered. So Yeah, no.
Forward cannons are tracking.
It'll never be faster than the Thunder Machine.
But it does outgun her. At least it has more options. I mean,
Yeah.
the Thunder Machine in the head-on pass is lethal, but the Havoc just, perhaps has a better field of fire. But the Dreadnoks aren't defeated yet. They are still defiant.
They'll never give up.
Wait till they get close. No more mistakes.
Or will they?
This time we
Da,
find
da,
one
da,
of Welsh's
da.
charges right up there. Oh, hello again, boys. Did you miss me?
Mardoose, baby.
Wow, look at the flag in the water.
They were just waiting at the coast.
Cheat. I cheated. But I needed some fresh footage. We can't keep relying on that same single day's worth of exterior shots.
And this as well is a cheat, by the way, guys. But it looks absolutely amazing. I love that Steven suggested that we have the Osprey taking off in the background. It looks amazing.
What, it cheats adequately.
It does. It makes you think there's a deck there, but there isn't.
Also
It's just a
provided
tower.
some teasing, some eye candy to anyone who is a fan of the Osprey and didn't get a chance to pick it up in its initial release. It has not been released since. Chap May, for some reason, has abandoned that mold. So it is pretty scarce these days.
Wow, I didn't know that. Maybe all the moving parts. I mean, it is quite a beefy vehicle.
It can accurately rotate its top wing, well, its wing, and its engines, and its propeller blades, so that it can accurately simulate, the way that an Osprey compacts itself down.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts on that thing.
Still, I don't think that's reason enough for it to have disappeared. Hopefully everyone gets that that's still Kozlov, with the rather bold, sort of circular and triangular
I think so.
sticker design.
I mean, and I mean that you've also made it quite obvious that there's a swap going on there. There's movement for a reason.
There is no communication because, I do like the idea of, using hand signals and body language to communicate underwater. I didn't want to do the cheat of like, okay, move aside, we've got a G.I. Joe in the water. I mean, that's, I don't like that trope. And also it lets me get away with concentrating on the other aspects of the sound design instead of having vocals.
This entire sequence is, I mean, I think we've probably mentioned this a lot before, but when you shoot with a GoPro, you really don't know what you're getting. Like, you can point the camera in a certain direction and hope for the best, but somehow we've always managed to come up with beautiful shots, and I think this...
If I do say so myself.
If I do say so myself, yes.
Rob's very proud.
I'm just always so impressed, like how incredible like these sequences can be, and also so Steven is completely submerged in this water and he has a wonderful wetsuit on, and I'm half submerged in the water with just my little shorts on for the sequence, so yeah, and also soon after we filmed this sequence, I fell over and knocked the wind out of myself. Very fun experience.
I had a bit of fun with the sound design of that underwater stuff because the GoPro version that I have, the Hero 5, has a little microphone.
Ooh.
So I took that sequence and played it back while I submerged the GoPro in a pool of water and just kind of like moved the GoPro around to kind of, I suppose, double up on
Wow.
the movement of the vehicles. And
So those are like real sound effects. I thought all of that was you just mouthing it.
no, there's some real underwater microphone sound effects, particularly the stuff where they have their knife fight.
Yeah, I love that knife fight. That was a lot of fun to play.
Eel versus seal, and the eel takes it. Yep. G.I. Joe is not unassailable, guys.
And here, if it wasn't obvious enough, yeah, Hawk is not who we think he is. At least the...
This is Samsung footage.
Yes.
And I'll tell you when it switches over to iPhone.
Practical effects, woo!
Civilian doctor working for G.I. Joe, and you thought you could stop me?
Oh, did anyone see that coming? Maybe.
Maybe some people did, but I hope that was as big a surprise to you as it was to us.
I mean, Hawk was acting weird. Ah, there, we switched to iPhone. Oh, that's a modern era Polly, but I needed one in flight. About time Polly spread his wings. I mean, he didn't in his whole journey to the bridge,
Yeah.
but yeah, he can't be posed passively when attacking Zartan.
Yes. And also for everyone, no animals were hurt in the making of this this series.
You gotta go through me.
Those
No
are-
real animals.
Those are comic book Zartan pads with a bit of black paint.
Hey.
Yeah. I ain't risking my real pads. Especially when you have Zartan doing a perfect 10 dive into the ocean. Here it comes.
Look at that.
Hmm.
He's a professional and he's farting all the way down.
Took about 10 takes to get him to behave properly and sweep past the camera like that, but it was worth it. Worth it.
Oh, hi, fellas. You just missed my dance partner. Had to run off before.
One more line from you coming up.
Or whatever. Don't mind me. I think I'm gonna pass out now.
I spent 48 hours clearing the ship, and he's probably gonna get the medal.
Yeah, the scene just needed something from Tripwire. I mean, we weren't going to close down on him mute, and I think a bit of snark at the fact that Shipwreck seems to get by coasting through without ever really doing much for the team.
Yeah. And it closes off, I mean, the main storyline quite nicely. I mean, it's always nice to end on a joke, I think.
Mm-hmm.
What have you done?
What has to be done? You never did see the bigger picture.
You drugged me? You kidnapped me? Why?
I couldn't leave you behind. Our orders were
We're to sink the boat?
Oh, I'm just enjoying the voice work here.
I saved your life.
So Stephen was scared, I think, the whole way through whenever shooting with Joanna that she was going to fall apart. Because her O-ring apparently is just disintegrating. And something I didn't know is that, like Zartan,
And
she's
Xandar.
and Xandar, the top half of their bodies are fused together. So in filming this sequence,
The moment it snapped is that moment.
is that moment right there. So now, yeah, she's in two pieces. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So-
you'll notice it, I think, in the next shot.
Well, you won't
can't-
notice it.
You won't notice it. Yeah, there. She's actually in two pieces. Which is why we got that nice body placement.
Very static. Yeah, no, she's a lot more posable for some reason. It's because the bottom half and the top half are disconnected.
But it's wonderful. And then here we get a nice closing out of our interpretation of a Cobra Commander.
So their leader is
Hmm. Somewhat more of a Bond villain and less of a used car salesman.
Yes, less of a buffoon and actually more of a menace.
You know, I feel like Cobra Commander, of necessity, because of the length and depth of the comic books, had to have his backstory so intimately explained.
Hmm.
But I think he operates best, to be honest, as an enigma.
Yeah, as a mystery.
But a dangerous one. I mean, he could literally take out his Venom Blaster and wipe them both out at that point.
Yeah, but he chooses not to because even though it looks like a failure, I think, to both Zartan and Mindbender, somehow Cobra Commander is still happy.
Well, his
Why?
opposite number on the G.I. Joe team has been mortally wounded. It sent the message that perhaps Cobra Commander was after this whole time. It's like, I'm not going to wipe you guys out. I'm not going to commit that much resource to destroying everything that G.I. Joe is. I'm just going to take a handful of operatives, and with that handful, I'm going to invade your most inner sanctum, your most heavily guarded vehicle base,
Yeah.
and take out your king.
Yeah, without even realizing, I mean, the way that I think this version of Cobra Commander, he knows how his operatives function and work. He knows the way that they think. He knows them well enough that even when they make mistakes, they are still working towards a plan that he has in mind.
Yeah, and also I think, I mean, he also knows that these two are still of some use to him.
Yeah.
But he's got other pawns waiting in the wings to enact their evil schemes. To date, we haven't seen the debut of Tomax and Zaymot yet, and the whole cabal of 1987 freaks. So Cobra's definitely got plenty more plot threads to pull at.
There's a lot that could come from this, and I hope everyone will be as excited as we are to kind of debut the figures and introduce new stories. This is our third series now, or at least our third story, and I've enjoyed creating these as much as as the other ones, and it's always a lot of fun, and I hope everyone had a lot of fun watching them.
Thanks, Rob. I
Yeah.
certainly had it's obviously a labor of love, and it is quite laborious at times because you fancy yourself a fan of action figures, but you wind up spending a lot more of your time making sweet love to your laptop, which is it's bittersweet. It's enjoyable watching it take shape, but at the same time, it is time consuming, and I must say, seeing the end results as it stands, just for posterity's sake, it makes me immensely proud. I'm happy with the end results. It's inspirational to me. It puts forth a vision of G.I. Joe that is my kind of most happiest medium. I mean, this is kind of middle of the road. It's drawing from the comic books, it's drawing from the cartoons, but it is its own thing. And its own thing is most definitely a celebration of the toys over everything. It is the toys that need spotlights. Before character, before plotting, it's literally a case of like, I really want to showcase X, Y, and Z. The Tomahawk, the Ore Striker, the Flag, Terradrome, Zorana, Zartan, Lady J, let's go. And the story, just as I say, weaves itself. It's really a very happy medium to work in, and I certainly hope I get ample opportunity to continue this good work after a bit of a hiatus, unfortunately. At this point, I just want to, in closing, say that I am going to be kind of out of the game for a little while, but I know I'll be yearning long and hard to get back into the swing of things. So, with any luck, we'll be seeing some more webisodes before too long.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think definitely this experience has spurred both me and Paul to kind of do more. I think you've definitely done the lion's share, if anyone noticed the credits. I think me and Paul, we're very revved up and excited to kind of see what we can do. And hopefully people will enjoy it as much as what we've done so far together.
There are also, of course, exciting forthcoming elements from third parties, in fact.
Absolutely. I mean, we kind of, I think, teased this in a way in one of our live streams. Collaborating with other people, I think, is something that we want to kind of do more.
It's absolutely the future of this medium, because what is so fun about these webisodes is that anyone who has access to the toys essentially has access to the same cast. We can share storylines and plot lines across time zones, across continents and oceans. We can weave the story of G.I. Joe together. And that is a very historic and exciting time to be in.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see where all of us are going to be going. And I hope to work alongside a lot of people in the future.
With that, I think there's nothing more to say than a hearty
Yo Joe! Berg. Cheers, guys.